Good morning, Happy Valley, and welcome back to another edition of the Penn State 365 podcast. I'm your host, Richie Schneiderite, joined by my co-host, Dylan Callahan-Crawley. Dylan, got some big news today for Penn State on the recruiting trail.
Yep. Yeah, 2025 pro-style quarterback Bekkem Kritza committed to the Nittany Lions this evening. Their fourth commitment now in the 2025 recruiting class as that ball continues. Sixth recruitment commitment in the 2025 recruiting class as that ball continues to roll. He joins Brady O'Hara, Tyke Hayes, DJ McClary, Keandre Barker, Amari Gaines as part of the class. Yeah, I mean, this is an interesting commitment for the Nittany Lions, to say the least.
Yeah, so it's interesting for the sole fact that, number one, they're getting a 2025 quarterback kind of earlier than we thought they would. And number two, he's moved around from, if I'm doing this right, and I could be wrong, started 2021 in Colorado, 2022 in California, started the 2023 season at Miami Central in Florida, and now transferred midway through and now is back in Boulder, Colorado at Fairview High School. Yeah. So explain to me what the hell happened there.
It's very similar to 2024 commitment T.A. Cunningham. He's somebody who moved from Georgia to California to Miami, and now is back in Georgia. And unfortunately, because of all that movement, hasn't been able to get on the field a ton. Kritza, similar, he started in Colorado, transferred out to a school in California. Well, I forget what school it was, but was backing up a Power 5 quarterback there, decided that he wanted to go to Miami Central, who also recruited T.A. Cunningham and T.K. Cunningham, 2027 defensive end prospect, to Miami Central. And I'm not sure why Kritza didn't stay down in Miami. I'm assuming maybe more of a playing time. I'm not sure who their quarterback is down there, but moves back to Colorado, and he put together a pretty solid junior season for Fairview. And this is a kid that Penn State's been recruiting for a while, despite all the changes, despite all the moving around. They've stayed on top of him. He's been to campus multiple times and always had good things to say about Penn State. And it looks like this last visit was the one that put him, over the top.
Yeah, so I'm going to throw a fourth state out at you because I'm looking now. It sounds like he was an Arizona native until he moved to Colorado. His family moved to Colorado in 5th grade. And yeah, now it's just he's just bouncing around everywhere. But from what we know, he is pretty close to the Cunninghams. He played with TK, the younger one, 2027 guy. Probably projected to be one of the better 2027 prospects right now.
Yeah. TK, I mean, that's going to be a really big name to know in that 2027 class. I mean, he's 2027 is, they're 15 years old, 14 years old.
Yeah.
He's 6'6", 228 already, nearly 20 scholarship offers, including Penn State. And, T.A. Cunningham, his older brother, committed to Penn State in 2024 class, is a very good prospect in his own right. Has fallen down the rankings a little bit because he hasn't been able to get on the field a ton. But getting TA is huge because of his upside, but also because you now have a big foot in the door when it comes to TK. I mean, if TA comes to Penn State and they develop TA into the prospect that everybody thinks he has the potential to be, that's a big selling point to TK in a couple of years, which is crazy to think about, by the way, that we're talking about 2027. But
well, they already have a 2026 commit too in Messiah Mickens, so it's not insane, I guess, but it's kind of.
I just refuse to believe that 2027 is a real year right now.
Yeah, I know. I thought we'd have flying cars, and instead we have I don't even know, nothing. Basically,
we have nothing that cool yet.
We don't even have renovations yet for Beaver Stadium. They're coming though. So
they're coming.
We're almost there. Almost there. That press box is brutal, but. Anyway, just looking at his so he transferred back in September, back to Colorado. He put up 1,700 yards, 1,747 yards, 65% completion percentage, 20 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He's not a big runner. I know he's obviously a pro style, but he that looks like he can if he needs to at times. He's got 2 rushing touchdowns on the year.
He's got some athleticism to him.
Yeah. Overall, just tell me a little bit about his game. I'm looking now. He seems to have
Yeah,
like a arm, like a crazy good arm,
yeah.
actually.
So I think what stands out, two things that stand out about him is that he's the kid is tall and he's skinny. I mean, 6'4", 194. He's going to have to put on some serious weight before he plays at the collegiate level.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not going to be a problem. But at 6'4", 194 and on tape, you can see it. I mean, he is a twig on the field. But that arm is a special type of arm, which really stands out. Mechanics wise, I mean, the mechanics are not great. I don't think anybody is going to disagree there. His feet often aren't set, but you can teach mechanics, you can teach the fundamentals. What you can't teach is that arm strength, and that arm strength is
Right
really,
there.
really damn good. Obviously, you can see it on film. His accuracy, I think you said what 65%.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a good number.
a good number, absolutely. That's probably right where you want to see it for a Power Five quarterback. You know, some of the higher end Power Five quarterbacks get closer to 70%. But I think
Mm-hmm.
Drew's senior season, he was completing about 65% of his passes. So the accuracy's there. Is the competition the greatest in Colorado compared to maybe where he was, in Miami or California? No, but there, I think while competition is always a little bit of concern in how they're going to play against better competition, at the very least, you can see what made Penn State comfortable right now taking his commitment, and it starts with that arm strength, and he has a nice touch on the ball to all levels of the field as well.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy just watching these highlights. He almost throws everything on the run. Like it's
Yeah,
off balance throws, on the run throws.
which
I
is incredibly hard to consistently make that throw, and he shows a bunch there.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see if he ends up staying out there, and I'd be also curious to learn more about who he's going to work with in this offseason because we
Yep.
know the last two
Yep.
quarterbacks for Penn State have worked with
Brad
Brad Mandler.
Mandalore. Yeah.
So I'd be curious to see if he comes a little bit closer to State College because it seems like he's willing to move
Yeah.
and play wherever. So I'd be curious to see if he makes a move out to Pennsylvania, maybe the Ohio region, or just anything like that, anywhere other than Colorado.
Yeah, it would be interesting. I mean, he's already moved a bunch already, so maybe there is another move in store. But uh, yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's a commitment that I don't think any of us really expected to happen this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
We knew ahead coming into the weekend that Penn State was going to have Malik Washington, Matt Zollers, Ryan Montgomery all on campus.
Mm-hmm.
We identified those three as the big three in this 2025 recruiting class for Penn
Mm-hmm.
State. But Kritza has been a guy they have been recruiting for a while. He's been on campus multiple times, always has had good things to say.
Mm-hmm.
And then he kind of announced last minute, I believe on Friday, that he was coming up for the Michigan game. And while we weren't expecting necessarily a quarterback commitment coming out of this past weekend or from Kritza, it makes sense in that he's been a guy who has been high on Penn State for a while. He made it back to campus, and he was talking about his strong relationship with the staff. And I asked him pretty quickly after Mike Yursich got fired on Sunday, does this affect his upcoming commitment because he committed during the weekend? And he said, no. I love Coach Yursich, but like I told Coach Franklin, I committed to him and his program. So I mean, I don't think obviously Mike Yurcich's firing is going to impact this at all, but I am going to be interested to see who Kritza works with, like you said, this offseason. But Penn State, to develop Kritza, is going to have to, the quarterback's coach is going to have quite a bit of work to do. The mechanics need some work. The footwork needs some work. But all those things are teachable. But the things that you can teach, I think he possesses, which makes him pretty intriguing. I'm a little surprised maybe that they took him before the other three guys, but it also to me maybe tells me that perhaps is going to be a two quarterback class in 2025. Because if he's the quote unquote number two quarterback, he's a potentially really good number two quarterback to have. I think with a strong off season going into next year, he's somebody who could rise back up the rankings. because the skill is obviously there. There's just it needs to be ironed out.
Yeah, he's an interesting one too because apparently he was a Miami lean as early as this spring.
Yeah,
Then he went to Penn State this summer, and then he went to Penn State again this past weekend weekend before. Yeah, this past weekend.
yeah,
And that basically seems like it sealed the deal. And it also seemed like the other competitors for him were Texas A&M, who he was very, very high on, but Jimbo Fisher fired, so see ya. Oregon, USC, Florida State. So there's a lot of big names that were after him. I know he's rated number 18 pro style right now per our rankings and number 44 overall in Colorado, I believe. But how shocked are you, I guess, that he committed to the program? I know you just mentioned it, but how shocked are you that a quarterback committed to a program that doesn't have an offensive coordinator, but technically has a QB's coach for now?
Yeah, and I'm going to assume the 44 is a system error because
That
I'm
might be
not.
Florida. It might
Yeah,
have not
because I don't think
changed
there's
yet.
44 prospects in Colorado who are better than Kritza. There may not even be 44 D1 prospects in Colorado. Yeah, I mean, it is interesting committed to a program right now that doesn't have an offensive coordinator or quarterbacks coach, just because the next offensive coordinator may like, a different style of quarterback than what Kritza presents. So, I mean, there is that risk that could he be processed by the next offense coordinator? I guess there's always a possibility, but I also think there's probably a reassurance from James Franklin that, hey, if you're committed to us, we're going to honor that commitment. And I'm sure Franklin spoke to Kritza on, I didn't get to ask this, I should have, but I'm sure he spoke to Kritza sometime on Sunday before or after the news of Yurcich came out, and probably offered some reassurance that they would be honoring that commitment. At least for now, I guess.
Yeah, I know. He actually mentioned it in his presser yesterday, I believe it was. He said he got to talk to the quarterbacks before Yurcich got fired, but that was pretty much it. He didn't get to talk to recruits or anything like that, and that's kind of where people were like, "Oh shit!" So I feel like some parents probably were a little shocked. Some recruits were probably a little shocked, but I don't want to dive too much into the coordinator stuff. We'll talk about that another day. Well, you actually already talked about it on the podcast, so there's really we'll move on. But
sure.
Do they end up getting another quarterback in this class? Because I know you just mentioned they did host Montgomery, Washington, and Zollers this weekend.
Yeah, those are three guys I think that we all pegged as the top three quarterbacks in the cycle for Penn State, and I'm gonna have to check around to see what their interest level is in being a 2-quarterback potential class, because I mean that's not what every quarterback really wants to be a part of. Some guys won't shy away from that competition. Some others will. I mean, 2 years ago, Penn State had Drew and Bo in a class, and I think taking Kritza potentially points to being a 2-quarterback class, because I do think his. I would say out of the 4 quarterbacks, I think Kritza may have the lowest floor of the 4 quarterbacks, but I also think he may have like the second highest ceiling of the 4 quarterbacks because of that arm strength. I think Malik Washington has probably the highest floor, highest ceiling of both of them, or all 4 of them, and then Zollers and Montgomery kind of fill in there. It'll be interesting. I do think that right now I'd lean towards them taking 2 quarterbacks, but that's definitely going to be something we have to check in a little bit more on, seeing if those 3 want to be part of a 2-quarterback class, and if if Kritza wants to be a part of a 2-quarterback class. I'm not sure what Penn State's told him in that aspect so far. I'm sure he's had those conversations, but going to be something we have to check in on.
Yeah, I think just personally, and this is just my opinion, this isn't from anything we know. I think you have to take a second quarterback. And I think you told Kritza that, saying like, hey, like, we like you, but we're going to take 2 this class. And if I had to guess, and this is just a pure guess, it's going to be Matt Zollers. I don't think they throw out an offer to an in-state kid this early, unless you're willing to take him.
No, I agree on that 100%.
And if you look at his, I know he's listed as a pro style, but if you look at his stats for his high school team, he's ran for 440 yards, 7 touchdowns. It's not like he's not immobile. Whereas Kritz is a little bit more of just a straight up pocket passer, whereas this kid can actually move and throw. Maybe not a full dual threat quarterback, but he can move. So that's just a guess on my part.
No, yeah, I think that's a really good point, and I think I agree that I think they'd take a 2 quarterback class just because, like I said, I think Kritz is, I think, and and I don't want to make it sound like I'm saying he's a bad quarterback. I just think of the 4 quarterbacks, his floor compared to the rest is probably a little lower, but I still think Kritz could develop into a good FBS Power 5 quarterback. But I also think Malik Washington is one of the best quarterbacks in the country for a reason. I think I think Ryan Montgomery is kind of that perfectly in the middle quarterback where I'm not sure if his ceiling is insanely high, but I think he has a pretty high floor in which you know what you're going to probably get, and he can be a decent Power 5 starter at worst. And then Zollers is tough because I think there's a lot of intrigue in that arm talent, in his mobility, and everything that he can do as well. But with Kritza, because of that floor, because of the mechanical issues that still need to be worked on, I almost feel like you need to take a second quarterback because you can't just, put all your eggs in one basket and hoping that you're going to be able to fix all the mechanical issues with Kritza. Not that there's that many, but not every kid is able to develop at the same rate as others.
Yeah, so, no, of course.
I think you need to take 2 to mitigate that risk. If Kritza, if that footwork and fundamentals and mechanics get, fixed, I mean, the potential for him to be a big time quarterback is there. He has the size, he has the arm strength. He just has to get the mechanics down now.
Yeah, 100%. Now, with this commitment, that's like you said before, the 6th commitment in the class, it puts them at number 5 in the nation right now. Who's next? Other than I mean, we just talked about the quarterback side. I'd like to shy away from that, but who would be the next one to potentially commit for Penn State?
Yeah, and I would be interested to see if it is one of the quarterbacks. I'm not sure which one it would be. Maybe Zollers, but because I was thinking that maybe we'd see a quarterback come in before the end of the year. I just didn't necessarily expect it to be, the second week of November. Now, who could it be in the 2025 class? I would have leaned Michael Carroll for a while, but it seems like he is willing to take his time in his recruitment. He's going to want to see a bunch of places. I look at there's a couple, I think, interesting ways you can go here. Obviously, running back is not much of a need at this point with 2 in the class already. Wide receiver, there's a couple guys that stand out for a while. It looked like Farrakhan Jr. was going to be that guy. I look maybe at Alex Cyrus as a guy who's could be amongst those. We've talked about Kanoa Winston in the past, but he hasn't been back to campus since September, so perhaps it takes one more visit for him.
It's a tough one.
Yeah, there's a group of guys that is pretty close together in terms of maybe being in that spot, but it's hard to pick out which one exactly may be that next one. Maybe Alex Tash out of Latrobe, a linebacker they recently offered. He's been at campus a bunch this year already, including just this past weekend. Has picked up offers from around the country, including USC, but I think Penn State has a good lead there, and I think he if I had to put money on one player, it would probably be him.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's definitely an interesting name and someone to keep an eye on. I think that's pretty much it for recruiting wise. I don't think there's anything going on in 2024. It's mostly done.
It's mostly quiet for now. Maybe we'll see them offer somebody here in the last few weeks of the cycle. But right now it's pretty quiet. And of course, perhaps we will watch for an Ernest Willer official visit in December. If that happens, that'll become interesting. But it's unclear if that will happen right now.
All right, cool. I think that's it. Any final thoughts before we sign off?
No, I think Penn State keeps getting the ball, or is keeping the ball rolling in that 2025 class. And it'll be interesting to see who they hire here as the offensive coordinator and see what type of impact that can have on recruiting, because depending on the name, it could have a pretty big impact on the recruiting going forward.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm sure we'll have another podcast shortly with some offensive coordinator updates and kind of our thoughts on the whole situation. I know you had one with Anthony already, but
Yep.
yeah, we'll have another one just kind of breaking down what's the latest, because this news changes just about daily. So,
yep.
For me and Dylan, that's another edition of the Penn State 365 podcast. Signing off.